Happy Friday, everybody.
It's Friday. It's October 22nd,
Friday.
2021. Welcome aboard, folks. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast. We're episode 523.
I thought for sure you're going to get it wrong. Man.
Listen, I try to keep it 50-50, right? Because if you get everything wrong all the time, you suck. And if you get everything right all the time, then people start to expect things from you. So if you kind of keep it in between, people tend to expect not much from you. Which is kind of like where I like to keep it. You know, don't expect too much, don't expect too little. Just, you know what? The biggest win is just showing up for the day. As long as we put out 2 podcasts a week, listen, we're doing a lot better than most people.
Indeed, man.
I mean,
we'll figure it out.
Maybe not most people, but most podcasters at least.
Yeah, I would say. I think that's.
What's the record for most podcasts done without missing a week?
Where on earth would you find that statistic?
I'm sure someone can. Guarantee you right now, someone just listened to say that. I'm like, I bet I can find that out right now.
Well, I would like to know. I don't. What if we're the champions of that?
We're not the champions of that. There's no way.
We got to be top 10.
I'll tell you this right now.
5 years without missing.
Oh, dude, we're 100% the champions of 2 guys whose ages are separated by 20 years. two guys in a truck. That'll be us later today.
Yeah.
Cruising down Hickson Pike. That have done a triathlon related podcast for 5+ years and 500. We are definitely in the top 5 of that. But no, listen, we all have that person who you're like, man, did you hear that so-and-so stayed in this random from, backcountry New Jersey? And you're like, what? Really? And then literally 45 seconds later, your friend's like, oh, I found her on Facebook. Ooh, she works over here. You know what she's been doing the last 5 years? You can tell you her horoscope. You can tell her what kind of house she owned, how much she paid for it. We all have those kind of friends. So I'm sure someone that listens to the podcast right now is looking up the record for most podcasts.
Without a miss?
Without a miss.
Yeah. It's just such a weird stat to find. I suppose it is out there.
Listen, consistent mediocrity has been our goal since we started, and we have been nothing but mediocre and consistent.
Yeah. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and you just can't hit home runs all the time. You can't even try to do that.
Yeah, we don't try to do that.
No. So it's really good. And you said like that under promise,
under
deliver.
Listen, at least all you have to do, we figured this out, is like you just have to be consistent and then just not suck bad. Like you can't be great because then everyone wants to pay attention and listen, and then they'll critique you.
It's just sort of
flying
under the radar.
You just gotta fly really, really set under the radar. That's what I told somebody in kind of joking fashion. The other day they was asking me about getting into coaching and doing whatever. And I was like, listen, dude, there are a lot of really, really, really bad coaches out there. So all that we really need to do is just be kind of mediocre and just kind of hang out. No, I'm just kidding. And do what we do best. This podcast is hopefully one of those things that we do, and we do our best, our very best at it. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome. We appreciate you tuning in and giving us your time. We know you have a lot of options in that triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. That your time is valuable, so we appreciate you lending us an ear today on this very special edition of a Friday with no breaking news. We covered it all. We covered swim, bike, and run specific podcasts like we did the last few weeks. We do race recaps. We do race previews. We have on a very, very occasional guest, but for the most part, Mike and I as coaches, athletes, best friends, have been doing this for a very long time. Sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through, what our athletes are going through. We work with a very wide range of athletes across the globe, from beginners to very experienced and advanced athletes. Sometimes we'll pop into our Facebook group, which is Crushing Iron Group. If you want to answer a simple question and be a part of that conversation, a really awesome community in there. But that's it. I try to take the vibe from that and put it out into the ether that is our podcast in a easy and consumable way. Yep. I know what you're doing right now.
No, I'm
no, you're not paying attention. Yeah, I know you are. You're looking out the window and somebody pulled up and you're thinking, because Mike is the HOA king and he's looking outside. So the person who has the 1-story studio or the one bedroom studio next to us has rented out their entire place for a week to some random a fashionista type. Like,
yeah, it's like the whole couture line is over there.
It's like we feel like it's like a mini Coachella going on next door. If that's what they do at Coachella. And this lady pulled up who, seems would be in that wheelhouse. So we've seen a lot of Teslas and Mercedes, like SUVs and Beamers rolling up this week, and another one rolled up. And I can see your face. You're thinking like, we got to get a cut of that. Like the HOA's got to get some cuts from like the profits of whatever this person's doing. They're renting out their studio for a week for basically a small business.
Yeah. At the very least, we need to put a gear table out there.
Now, I know you rolled up interested in these chic, new age.
Some loungewear.
Yeah, loungewear, athleisure. But let me show you what's really champion, and that is these champion sweatshirts that we have. That
you're going to be wearing these a lot more than that.
Exactly.
I mean,
But no, I saw your face. But it's a
podcast brought to you by Cash App.
Yeah, the Cash App's a good one.
We should put our Cash App out there and see if anybody
what is Cash App?
It's like Venmo.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So
I guess
people want to just like donate cash to the process.
To the process. It is a very busy weekend.
Is the reward, though,
the process is the reward. You can't say that. So just logging in is the reward enough. But it's a very busy weekend here, at least in North America, as we kind of finish out. There's a lot of other fulls going on the rest of the year. You got Arizona, you got Florida, you got Cozumel in November. But this is one of the bigger last weekends with a bunch of races going on from kind of east to west coast. You've got North Carolina 70.3 going. You got Ironman Waco. You got Waco 70.3. That's a Saturday and Sunday event. I think the 70.3 starts at like noon on Sunday. I think the full's tomorrow. Then you got Ironman California going on Sunday, which is a huge pro race. You got Jan Frodeno, Gustav Iden, and Lionel Sanders kind of going head to head, which it now looks as like there's supposed to be like some kind of missile typhoon bomb that's supposed to be coming in. I've had like 3 or 4 athletes send me like the news reports. So basically California for the entirety of the year, 0 rain. Like a month ago, they're like, I wonder if they're going to have the swim because there's literally been no rain. And then now, of course, the weekend they're going to have this big event. It's calling for like torrential downpours and 3 inches of rain. Very reminiscent to the beginning of Ironman Louisville 2018, 2019. I know they moved the start back to 7 o'clock, past 7 o'clock for the pros. They're going to let it warm up. It's also going to be very cold. And so I want to touch on some of those things today. Things to do with when kind of races or when Mother Nature kind of rears their ugly head and makes your race a little bit more difficult to handle, which I love personally, especially for a lot of the athletes that we work with, because we like working with hardy, resilient athletes who can withstand.
Yeah,
but that's
going
on. The grinders, baby. And so that's going on this weekend. But yeah, so it's a busy weekend, but it's fun. It's October. The Vols still have a winning record for at least one more week. We'll be back to 500 probably next weekend.
I forgot.
We're going to throw golf balls at you.
I thought you guys won. I didn't even, but it was a heartbreaker, huh?
I went to bed. I went to bed at halftime.
Oh, okay.
You know me, like
Wisconsin squeaked by Army.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even I didn't keep it. Tennessee played okay against Ole Miss. We did not capitalize on we should have, but I thought our defense. Listen, I'm very happy with where we are right now, considering how many scholarship players, like 20 plus scholarship players, we are down right now in the high layer. And we got a good quarterback, and we got a team that looks at least like they're fun to watch. How
far has Tennessee come when you're happy after you lose to Ole Miss?
For sure, right? And how far has Ole Miss come in the last 3 or 4 years? How much have we bottomed out? But no, listen, you got to start from somewhere, and you got to be excited. And if anything, the Josh Heupel offense is a good advertisement for recruits. So that's all I'm going to say. It's a very good thing to put up some numbers, do some big things. And whatever the Archie Manning's kid or Cooper Manning's kid, come on down to Tennessee.
That's going to happen.
On back. No, probably not. But it would be awesome if it did. I could go into a lot of things today in terms of like the conditions and the weather, but you seemed like I said something that kind of perked your ear, it looks like, in terms of a topic that we may be going for today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Was that, no, you're just still judging lady outside?
I just need to work on my strength, coach.
Man, it's all about strength, baby.
This time of year. Especially after unloading that closet, I noticed.
You a little sore?
Some of these boxes, I'm a little sore.
Just wait till we get done with things tomorrow.
That was my workout. It's in Training Peaks.
No, I thought we've had I had a lot of questions from athletes in California specifically and this happens a lot. Not a lot, but it does happen when things get. When you go to a race like Coeur d'Alene, for example, this year, which was very unseasonably warm and hot. The course in itself was already hard enough, and it was just blistering and relentless heat. And then you got a race like California, which when people sign up for it, they think downriver swim fast. I mean, it is a insanely fast course, pancake flat bike course, pancake flat run course. You're thinking PR, PR, PR. And then Mother Nature's like, I see your PR. I'm going to raise you 3 inches of rain and 20 to 40 mile an hour winds. And the two biggest kind of tidbits of advice I've given the athletes to work with is, number one, stay warm. The warmest athletes will be the fastest athletes. And then 2 is just be safe. Stay on your wheels. Stay on 2 wheels. That's like literally, I remember this very vividly in the year that I think you did it when Louisville, the swim was shortened to like less than a mile. The river was like raging. It was cold already. I was in like a hoodie and a jacket. They changed the swim. And then I remember standing at the exit to get on the bike. And I remember seeing the first, I don't know, 30, 40 people coming out of the changing tents that did not change. They just came out in their tri-suits thinking, I got to save minutes. Like I'm going for a podium, going for a Kona slot. I can't waste 5 minutes. I got to go out here in the 40-degree weather. That's going to because it got colder throughout the day, I feel like. It's going to be windy. I'm going to get on my bike. I'm probably already super thin as it is, but with no body fat, no insulation. But you know what seems like a good idea? Riding my bike in the freezing cold because I got to save some watts and I got to be warm. You know what happened to those people? They're the same ones bust back in at about 15 to 20 minutes in. It was a parade of 5% body fatters that had made poor choices when it came to weather. The people who were the most successful got their gear on, took their time, because if you want to do the best against the field for the day and the best that you can do given the course, given the conditions, the weather, everything else, if you want to race fast, you have to be warm. A cold athlete is a slow athlete, or it's an athlete that turns their chip in before they get off the bike.
I would have to say, yeah, because I was a little bit disappointed that I feel like I was definitely safe and I overdressed. And at times in the bike, I was like, oh, I can't move. I didn't even feel like I was biking. I was more like, riding to the grocery store in the dead of winter or something like that. And, I really wasn't, of course, I'm never happy with my races, but I wasn't like overly happy with the race. But like you said, you had a good point there. I said, I think, I look later, I think I actually did pretty well against the field in my age group for just kind of, sticking in there and grinding through it. And it wasn't
getting to the
pretty,
finish
but
line.
Yeah.
Staying upright, like there's that's just the thinking mentality that you kind of have to shift, especially when you've been looking at a race for a long, long time and you've done your tri-calc, you've done your, but I really think I can PR this course. And, the swim's downstream, so that's probably going to save me 50 minutes. I'm probably looking at a sub 1 hour swim. And then the bike course, it's pancake flat. I'm going to fly 21, 22 miles an hour, whatever it is. And then the marathons is flat. In the weather, the temperature's going to be perfect. I'm going to kill it. That's all you've been focusing on training. That's where you've gotten your motivation from, is having this great day, being the fittest you've ever been, and getting this result that has a time. Then you check the weather, and then you got the swim, is going to be, it's probably going to be faster now if they even have the swim, depending on how fast it is going to be. And then you look at the day and you're thinking torrential downpours, 20, 30 mile an hour winds. There goes what I've been focusing on for a time for the past however long. Or it's your very first one. And you're thinking, this isn't that bad of a one. I can think late season, California, Sacramento, pancake flat. This is it, baby. And then Mother Nature's like, there's no such thing as an easy Ironman. And the biggest thing you've got to kind of flip the switch is, and I don't want to say go into survival mode because I don't think that's the way to attack it as well, but you really just have to shift your thinking into how can I still get the best out of myself on the race course, given what I have to go up against now. It's like preparing for a boxing match or a big fight or whatever, and you're thinking you're gonna go into the ring and somebody in your weight class, and all of a sudden you show up to weigh-ins and you're like, yeah, we forgot to mention that I know you're in the 150 weight class, but we got you going against the heavyweight today. Is that gonna fly? Is that cool? We're still gonna give you the same amount of money, and you're like, well, okay, yeah, I think I'll show up. Then you gotta think, all right, the stylistically it's totally different. I'm probably gonna be a little bit outmatched here and there, but where can I find wins? If you're in the 150s, you're a flyweight, you're like, I'm probably quicker, right? So I'm not gonna knock this guy out like I may have had a chance to knock out this guy before. So I'm definitely quicker. I'm definitely going to knock them out. So I'm probably going to have to outpoint them, right? I'm probably going to have to connect more, move, and shake more. What I can't handle and what I can't have is for this heavyweight guy to take a shot on me. I can't allow him to, because I'm probably going to be toast. He's probably going to knock me out. I don't want that either. So you kind of have to adjust your game plan, which I think is something that's very hard for athletes that are very stringent, very rigid in terms of their game plans, is going and being flexible and thinking, instead of thinking, how fast can I go? It's how warm do I need to be, right? Do I need to wear gloves, arm warmers, a vest? It's no longer about getting through transition as quickly as possible in like record time. It's about drying off, getting as warm as you possibly can, and basically setting yourself up for the warmest bike ride, and then worry about the run after that. Not how quickly can I move through one to get to the other. You're going to have wins, but it really is. It's about the warmest athletes are going to be the fastest athletes, just like they were in Louisville that day. And then it's about, honestly, it's about staying upright. It's about staying on two wheels. Don't have your tire pressure cranked way up like usually if it's going to be wet, you want more contact on the ground. You don't want less. So the higher PSI you use in your tire, the less contact area you have on your tire. So don't fully inflate it. You're normal. You want more contact. I don't think it has a lot of turns, but it is. It's about getting off the bike and being warm, and then having just tons and tons and tons of basically, like the next door Coachella with a wardrobe. You want to have options, baby. You want to have options in your T2 bag, in the changing tents, and you got to think, all right, like you said, when you're on the Louisville course, being a little bit too warm, it kind of sometimes fools you, because you're like, you know what, I can get rid of this vest.
Yeah.
And then about, 5 minutes later, you're like, now I'm freezing again.
No, I know.
And you can't get yourself warm again.
I it a few times. I'm like, okay, I can't do it.
Yeah. And so I think that's something that every athlete has, it's better to have than to have not when races like this happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember standing in the swim line going down there, and Todd Nordmeyer from Nashville, the big bike guy up in Nashville, he was out there cheering everybody on like he does. And I said, Todd, you got any last minute? Because it was raining. He goes, lower your tire pressure. And I was like, it's too late, man. I'm way up there. And he goes, oh. And he got mad at me. I was kidding. I'm like, I'm kidding, dude. I'm down. I'm down. I'm good. I already did it,
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things where, and again, I think being a little bit warm is always better than being a little bit too cold. I think that's just one of those things. And some athletes would say, I'd rather be too cold than being a little bit warm is a good thing, because what happens when your body gets cold is that your body has to use its own energy and burn more calories to just stay warm. And so the colder you get, the slower you're going to get, the harder it is to take in fuel, and the more of your energy is actually going to go to keeping your body warm. Obviously, you don't want to be insanely hot, but if you're just a little bit warm, not hot, but warm, you're probably in a good spot. You can't tell somebody, you just need to stay dry. You ain't staying dry. You are not going to stay dry if the forecast, holds and it's going to rain as much as it looks like it's going to rain. You're going to be wet. You got to think about taking your corners. You got to think about just being very, very, very vigilant on race day, and then preparing to run a rainy, wet marathon, which again, it is no easy task. Your shoes are going to be heavier. The surface is going to be a little bit slower because you're going to be running through probably up. I mean, listen, I lived in California for but a minute, and it rained one day. The whole time I was there, and it rained the day before I did the Long Beach Triathlon's Olympic distance. Literally the grossest water I've ever swam in my entire life, because they're just so not used to rain. Everything just kind of cleaned out the gutters and the streets, and it just kind of swept into the ocean. It was disgusting. So I can't imagine that the drainage systems there are going to be anything short of a disaster. But it could be wonderful. But you just have to be prepared and kind of go into race day thinking with those kind of surface level thoughts of, it's not about how fast, it's about getting there as quickly as you can by being as warm as possible. It's going to be about, your day is going to be basically dictated by how warm you can be and how consistently you can move forward without having to worry about, holding on your brakes, or, being slow because there's water, or running around in 9-pound shoes. They're going to be like soaked in being wet. 'Cause that's actually one of the things I was thinking was like, do I recommend to the athletes that they put an extra pair of shoes, like at the halfway point, to save them some time? Then I'm like, all right, it's probably going to take them a minute and a half to do that. They're going to put them back on, and within about a minute to a minute and a half, they're going to be so wet again that it's going to be like running in the same pair of shoes. So it's basically a moot point.
Yeah. I did that once with socks.
What race? You don't remember?
I don't remember. It might have been.
Memorable.
It might have been the hot.
Was it Rev 3?
No, it might have been chat. I don't remember what it was, but my problem was it was so hot, whatever day that was. I don't know what I was thinking, why I was changing. Because it was supposed to, I think it was raining and then it stopped or something. It was one of those type of deals. I'm like, I might stop by then. Maybe I'll change. But I was so hot or whatever that I kept pouring it. My socks were wet like within a mile because I got water all over them again.
Yeah.
Pouring water. But that was back when I didn't take heed and not pouring water straight down my body, you know. I just was soaking myself all over, and I'm like, man, I'm squishing again, you know. But like, yeah, I don't know where to go.
Are you struggling today?
I'm just yeah, I mean, I guess I am. I'm not struggling, but I'm just like, yeah.
It's Friday. You're checked out. You're ready to hit the road.
Well, maybe, but I think I'm trying to spin this thing somehow.
Well, do you have we can redirect.
I don't know. I don't have a redirect, but I just thought I'm trying to get there. So
so you want me to keep talking until you find a redirect?
Or kind of like, you know, shift the mode a little bit.
Well, we could just stop. We can just stop abruptly and talk about fine tuning your off season.
Oh, have we not talked about that before?
I mean, we have a little bit, but I mean, like, you know, earlier. Yeah, so that was part 1 of this podcast. Now, stay tuned for part 2. Listen, we can switch gears all we want to.
No, I know.
But no, we had one of our athletes, Erin Corner, in from Wisconsin. She was in for Hub Visit. We spent a lot of time in the pool. She's back in the pool right now. And you know, we spent the last 2 or 3 weeks talking about micro goals. We did one focused on swimming, did one focused on cycling, we did one focused on running. And I do think that, like, going back to the swim one, that we got a lot of great feedback on that one. That I think what athletes tend to focus on, and what I think gave examples for, even for myself specifically, was, and we touched on kind of like a more focused expectations, you know, process, you know, results that we did on Monday, was when you come into, and you said something about strength earlier, about when we were moving boxes and stuff like that, and I've had this conversation with, I don't know, multiple athletes in the last 2 to 3 weeks, because a lot of athletes have finished up their big race here, and they're like, all right, where do I want to go next year? Like, you know, what do I want to do next year? And we talked about this on the Zoom call we did. It was, all right, once you figure out where you want to go, right? And that's what we always do. We do a race and we think, all right, next year I'm going to qualify for this, or I'm going to go, I did 13 here, but you know what? I want to go sub this, or I want to do sub that, or I want to have this too. I want to PR. I want to be in the top 20% of my age group. I want to go from the back to the middle pack. I want to go from 10th or 11th in my age group to on the podium. And I think one of the biggest things that athletes struggle with is they look long-term, long view to, this is what I want, right? This is what I want to be, or how I want to, what I want the result to be. And then that's as far as they get, right? They don't really peel back the layers of the, you know, the goal onion, if you will, of what do I need to do in the interim to get to where, you know, to get to where I want to be. And you mentioned on the podcast on Wednesday, was one of the phrases we use a lot is, train so you can train like you need to train, right? To get to the result that you hopefully want to get. Right now, the training that you ultimately want to do is what should dictate the training you're doing now. So if you're an athlete that feels like you struggle with strength, right? That you're not very durable, or you feel like you need to add in some specific type of cross training or strength training, or you need to run trails more, you need to do more big gear work on the bike, or more pull buoy and paddle work in the pool, like, now is the time, right? But most people want to jump straight for speed, right? Speed and volume, that's what, you know, allows me to get faster. It was one of the things I thought about on my run this morning. I went out this morning and ran the trails. And it was the first time, because I've been trying to do that at least twice a week for the last 3 or 4 weeks. One, just so I don't die at run camp, because they're all trails. But 2, I always feel like I'm a better runner when I run trails. It's more fun for me. It's more engaging. I don't obsess about pace. I just kind of go by feel, but it keeps me engaged and interactive, but it also helps me use muscles, ligaments, east and west, faster turnover, uphills, downhills, more than I would ever just kind of leaving from my house and going on my kind of my same monotonous route. But as I was running today, and I've been doing this for about 3 or 4 weeks, I got the first feeling I've gotten since I started kind of back in, it was, I feel strong today. Like, I didn't feel like I could lift a house, but we all know that feeling where we get on a run route, or we hop on our bike and go to some route, and we kind of going up a hill that we normally do, and we're like, I feel efficient. Like, I'm not trying to, you know, I'm not putting in so much effort to run up this hill. I just kind of feel like I'm just still running, but the hill is there. And I felt that this morning, and I know that for me, that strength piece translates so well to running long for me on the pavement and being more efficient and not breaking down, which is something I know that I mentioned. I feel like I really, really lacked at Ohio this last year. I know I mentioned this, I just feel like I broke down too easy. I didn't have the mileage that I was used to having in me, which is a point of focus for me right now, is getting up to more mileage. So it's not about, again, I want to have a faster run at the next race I do, but it's what's going to get me to the point to where I can train to the level that's going to get me to the point to where I can actually take that fitness and put it into a performance, right? Instead of just kind of jump from A to Z, you got to go B, C, D, and so on and so forth. And that's something I think athletes struggle with, is kind of fine tuning and figuring out exactly what is my weakness? Where do I have these areas of focus? And you said strength. My first thing was like, I even mentioned where I was like, I need to get back in the pool today. I need to keep my streak alive of getting the pool 3 days a week, because I didn't get in the pool 3 days a week, multiple weeks in a row at all last year. And I know that's a weakness of mine. So instead of thinking I need to, get back to swimming a sub 30 minutes, 70.3 swim, my first thought is I need to keep getting in the pool consistently and getting in the work. And so I think this time of year, again, without having, major expectations like we talked about on Wednesday, it's just about finding using the example and kind of catapulting the conversation we had about, Ironman California races with really bad conditions. It no longer becomes about the result. It becomes about the small, what you used to think were kind of inconsequential decisions that just were very like, what am I going to wear for the day? Done. Mm-hmm. And now those small decisions could make or break your race, because the conditions are now going to be that much more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What you're saying about strength, I mean, obviously I just went through Chattanooga, and that's all that was on my mind. I just felt weak. And since then, I haven't been doing a lot either, but because you mentioned East and West and overall strength and building those ligaments and doing all that roundabout stuff. And man, I don't know. I kind of feel a little frail, since the race. And you can tell that too, when you're out. It's been a while since, actually, I think maybe a month before the race or a few weeks before the race, when I actually felt that going up the hill. It's just there kind of thing. I was starting to feel that a little bit, but when I look back at this and I think, man, you can set your goal and you can say, I want to, next year I want to come back and do this race and I want to go sub 11:30 or whatever it was. And I just think, man, that's just ridiculous to do that, because you got to just start where you're at. You got to take care of business. Like you're saying, get in the pool today, do that kind of stuff. I mean, you hear it all the time. People set goals for businesses, 1 5-year goals or whatever, and like how the business is totally different by the time they get there. Mm-hmm. But you just have to put your mind into the moment and take care of things that are in front of you and do them the best you can, and do what you think you need right now today to keep moving in that direction. That's why, in a weird way, I think goals are good, but I also think they're kind of weird. Like having that goal out there, because like, what if you're thinking about that goal and you do, and it's maybe not the right goal, or the stuff you're doing isn't taking you to that goal. You know what I mean? I think you have to pay attention to what's going on and how you're getting better, how you're getting stronger, how things are going, and what's working. Because it's like you can have all these meetings and stuff and go out and hope to execute everything perfectly, but sometimes you just have to adjust. And I think that's being flexible and adjusting day to day is kind of what needs to be done, as long as you're moving in the general direction,
Basics, baby. Yeah. It's all about sticking with the basics. And I think that's where, and that goes with training, right? We all know what the basics are, right? You're consistent. You try to stay injury free. You do a specific amount of, lower intensity work. You do a specific amount of higher intensity work. And then you see progression, right? You take care of your body, you sleep, you eat right. These are the basics that honestly will get you 90% of the way there, right? To your best race. But we tend to put we tend to put 90% of our focus on the 10%, right? Of what can we do different? What can we do? How can I get there faster? How can I get there quicker? It's like, that's why hacks are so profitable, right? It's like, because everyone's looking for a shortcut. So how it should be is 90% of your energy and your focus and your time and your motivation and commitment, whatever, should be focused at the 90% of the basics, right? That gets you pretty much all the way there. But it's not. It's mostly reverse. It's like, well, how do I get this extra little bit out of me? And you let the other things falter, right? Like when we all work with athletes that have like, chronic niggles or things that come up, they go to PT and then they're gone. And then what's the athlete do? So they stop going to PT. They stop doing their exercise or the stretches or the foam rolling. And then what happens? A week and a half later, right back where they started. They stop doing the basics, right? And I think that in business are the same way. You do the basics really, 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 really well, and you get to another level, and you think, all right, well, let's get to another level. I've got to do this, right? I've got to do this. And so you start putting all your focus, you start shifting your focus from just doing the basics really, really well and doing them consistently to, all right, now we got to focus on changing this, or maybe, changing our logo or rebranding or doing this, and you're like Clash Daytona. And you, instead of just being like, you know what, maybe the best trajectory is just to like, keep with the basics, and because a positive trajectory is a positive trajectory, right? And I think a lot of athletes struggle with that, and I tried to remind them of that as much as I can. And the off season is like, listen, they're like, wow, so how are we going to get there? I'm like, how do we get here? Right? We're going to do the same shit over again, just a little bit differently, but we're going to keep doing it because it's about building weeks and months and years on top of each other. We just can't forget how we got where we got. And I think that's where attention span and things like that, shiny new objects and changing things up is so popular these days, because it's not because these things work more. It's because as a society, our attention span has become shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So we need things to be different. A lot of times I even tell athletes, like, Mike, listen, if you want me to change things up, I will, but it's not because it's going to do you any good. It's because you just can't pay attention, right? Or you just need variety versus what's really going to be the best thing for you. And if that's okay with you, then we'll do it because you're the athlete. But it's usually not the best thing, right? So, but people, we gravitate towards that. But getting back to basics, feeling strong, listen, you will never, ever feel sustainably fast and have sustainable speed until you have long-term strength. Because in order to have sustainable long-term speed to where you don't hurt yourself and you can hold it for a long period of time, you have to have the strength and the durability to hold it. Mm-hmm. And that is just something that I want to get back to speed. I want to get back to speed. Like, well, in order to do that, are you going to commit to running enough to where we can actually run fast for a long period of time and have it matter without you, going from 7-minute miles to 10-minute miles at mile 8? Like, it's about, but that's not the sexy thing, right? The sexy, well, I think I want to hit the track twice a week. Well, maybe we should work on not running just 15 miles a week before we start hitting the track, right? Because it's about, but that's the difficult part, A, for coaching, and B, just with like how we are as humans now is like, I don't want to do the boring shit. I just want to go straight from point A to point Z. Just get me there. I don't care if I just want it at least look like I'm doing it. Even if I'm not actually doing it, I want to go hit the track or do some speed work, even though God knows my body isn't ready for it. Today, in this moment, in those 4 200s that I did, I'm going to feel fast. Like I'm getting faster. And the reality is you probably ran 15 miles a week and you're not getting faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of laugh about, especially as I get older, the idea of me doing, quote unquote speed work, because it's just like, I don't know. I feel like I can run fairly fast or whatever, but I'm not speedy in any way. And to work on, that pointy end of whatever it is, 5 or 6 minute pace, for half a mile or something like that, or for 100 yards or whatever the heck it is. It's just like, I don't know where it even fits in really. Because what you said about the strength, if you can't have long-term strength long-term strength, and that stuff is so important, and when you're talking about hacks too. And when I think about hacks, I think where I see hacks being a good thing for me is not in the exercise, but like, I like to come up with hacks to get to the exercise. You know what I mean? Like it could be, one of the, things I've been trying to do is like in the morning, just not look at my phone for like an hour. I know that's like really difficult. Try it. But in place of that, I've been sitting down to write and just trying to write, just to get a habit going that really maybe helps me even understand how to start enjoying the basics. That's one of those things that I've talked about this story many times. Whenever I got this idea that I wanted to go work on my backhand, I used to look so forward to going out there for an hour and throwing a ball against the wall and working on my backhand as a shortstop. And it just became this incredibly, exciting thing, but it was the most ridiculously boring thing in the world. But, and it's so difficult to really see improvement because you're just sort of doing it over and over and over. And then maybe one day, and I always say that's the weird thing is like some days you can do that forever and you'd be like, I don't know, I think I'm getting better or whatever. And then you get in a race and then you show it, or I got in a game and like that play was easy now. And whereas before it would scare the crap out of me or whatever. But that's the kind of sexy part of being able to be in that moment and be in that quote unquote mundane or find, the excitement in the blah. Like sometimes it's like, I woke up, I ran, that's it. And when people leave comments like that, I'm like, yes.
Yes, exactly. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if we discussed this on air or not, but it was like somebody was talking about like Tom Brady and like they looking at his release this year. It's as fast as his release has ever been.
Right.
But all people know him for the Super Bowls and the touchdowns, right? Because that's what gets you the headlines. That's what gets you obviously Super Bowl rings. But it's the mentality that still has him at 40 plus working on his release that allows him to do those other things and be the greatest quarterback probably of all time, right? Like those are the things that, like the small little things that, again, don't show up in the massive statistics or the map, but it all goes back to just the stuff like you on just the day-to-day. That's like the beauty is in the minutia. Like it's in like the things that you just do, and then they become part of what you do, not something you have to focus on anymore. And that's what ends up turning into a really, really, really good result, right? You said like your back end, you didn't have to think about it anymore. It just came naturally. And then you're turning plays you wouldn't play. But it was like, oh, well, what a great play by Mike Trowley. What they didn't see was like, the highlight reel of like the, 98 whatever 100 hours working on a, backhand with no one watching. It's like that's the stuff that gets people where they want to go, but it's not. We live in this ridiculously stupid, moronic highlight reel world where everyone posts a highlight and everything is great and everything is dandy and everything is awesome. And every food dish I have is a Michelin star thing, even though I got it from McDonald's and I just changed the background and put a filter on it. It's all bullshit, right? Most of our life is simply pretty much, hopefully, boring, right? It's just a whole lot of gray with like a little bit of pizzazz here and a little bit of shit over here. But for the most part, that's just where it is, right? But we highlight both ends of the spectrum. The worst day ever, or this day was epic. Like, and nothing, everything in between is just kind of like, is what it is. But listen, when we die, 99.9% of our days are going to be in the gray, right? And the other days are going to be here and there. And that's the same thing with training. Like, it's part of what you do and what you focus on. It's about doing the basics right. It's about finding something so small that you literally can't brag to anyone about. But to you, it means that you're so dialed in and so motivated. You're paying attention to every single detail that all those hundreds of details maybe you're paying attention to that are separate end up being one really, really, really great result. Like, do you think the professional triathletes out there, the Fast Minute, spend their days cruising on, Facebook or Amazon or Slow Twitch trying to find the next piece of gear? No, they're trying to figure out, how can I stay as healthy as I've been to just keep doing the work that I've been doing? Or they pay attention, or they spend hours and hours and hours in the wind tunnel to save 2 watts, right? Because that's the difference of this. Or they do testing, or they do this, or they're worried about being consistent. They're worried about the pizzazz and they're not worried about the sprinkles all the time. They're worried about the cake, because if you don't have a cake, you can't have sprinkles.
Mm-hmm. Now back to your Tom Brady thing, and I think we can kind of tie that into your flyweighting. It's a heavyweight deal. It's like he's getting older. He's not very fast if you watch him. He can't move, all these other things. So he's had to work on that, right? So that becomes this thing, right, where he has recognized a way to stay longevity in the game. And I guess he does a lot of stretch band stuff, and he's not like big into weights. I don't know what the deal is with him, but there's a lot of opportunity. And I think we need to, we've all seen, we've got a lot of athletes that we know they're okay swimmers and they're decent bikers, and they just are patient with it. And then you see them on the run and they just run by everybody, or vice versa, or whatever the case may be. But you got to look for, obviously you got to work on your weaknesses and everything like that. But like, there's opportunities to be very strong in certain whether it's a running or cycling, and those kind of things matter, right? You know, if you're a really good cyclist, and yeah, you might be hanging on at the end of that run, but if you can douse somebody on that bike, if you're that good, you know, I mean, if that's your strength and you think you have high, you know, like a high end, or, you know, have more room on that, work on that and become, you know, I often think about that. Like and I didn't pull it off because I wasn't ready or whatever, but like I was thinking, you know, there's this gray area too between, boy, you could, you know, we always talk about it. You can lose 30 minutes on the run by being a little too aggressive on the bike and stuff like that. But also I think you can pick up 30 minutes on the bike if you're really good, and then, you know, hold on and maybe only lose 15 minutes on the run, or that kind of stuff. I mean, those are the kind of things that I think there's opportunity within the minutia of the sport to kind of like get little wins and find little strategies that are going to make you a little bit better. And, you know, just play, you know, I guess play the game with who you got, you know. It's like, and work on things that you know will help you get better as you get older.
It's all about the details, man. It's just about it. Seriously, it is. It's about paying attention to the stuff that you know you have to pay attention to. But that's the hard part, is you have to keep your attention span on these specific things long enough to where they're no longer things you have to work on. They just come naturally. Right. And that's the thing, like with swim mechanics or being consistent on the bike or being consistent. I really want to be a runner this year. Okay. Can you commit to running more, to be a better runner? Yeah. I think I really just need some speed work. Okay, man. Now you're just talking out of your ass. Like, that's just like, no, you have to be, that's why I like the book, like, you know, run less to, you know, go faster. I'm like, no, but that's why it sells. Like, I want a shortcut too. Give me the shortcut.
Right.
But you just have to do these things that, you have to have a set standard of what I know is going to get me to where I want to go. And then, but we always look for, and we always fall back. We never fall back onto I think I'm going to focus more or do more. We always like, yeah, but I can probably not do it as much and still be fine. Mm-hmm. You know, I think I can maybe bike one time less a week and still be all right. But because it's not just about biking one day less or running twice as, you know, or running less or swimming less. It's the attitude that you're carrying that's really just prevalent through most of your training. Is if all you're doing is thinking about how little can I do, right? Or what shortcuts can I take, then are you ever really going to take the best way there to get you the most success? Because you're not. You're going to always be looking for a shortcut. You're not going to be, you're not going to gravitate towards finding a way to just get it done, even if you don't want. And listen, no one's telling you to be perfect all the time, but this is the time of year when, listen, if you can't do it right now, you're not going to do it right during race season. Because if you can't find the time to get in X amount of an hour, and obviously, like, you know, if you're coming off post-race or whatever, and you're kind of going through, like, you know, just kind of a detox from training, totally get it and highly encouraged. We basically tell our athletes to do what the hell they want to the whole month of December. But to kind of, like, you know, be able to, like, be your best when it's run. But if you can't do it at a low volume and a low demand and a low expectation, how do you expect to do it when the expectations are higher, the volume is higher, the intensity is higher, the demand is higher, and you're that much closer to a race? Mm-hmm. And that's why we see all the time, we pick up, you know, new athletes, and you pop in, you're like, why do you have 9 training plans uploaded right now at the same time? You know, the first one is like, you know, 10-hour beginner. And then they, like, see a bunch of red. Like, the next one's like 14-hour intermediate advanced, a couple greens, a whole bunch of reds, next purchase, 18 to 20-hour advanced, right? Is it because they think, all right, well, I can't do the basics right or consistently, or the plan is just too much for me. But I think if I put more pressure on myself to do more, maybe I'll find the time to do more. No. If you can't find time to do a little, you ain't going to find time to do more. And if you can't find time to do the basics right, you're not going to find the time to do the other things right that you need to apply those basics that you fine-tuned and perfected down the line. And it's a huge disconnect between athletes and what they need to do and what they like to do most of the time, which, again, you're working with athletes who like to be entertained. Now, it's got to be entertaining. I want to see more. Like, sometimes when we get new athletes, like, yeah, they're coming from a different coach. Like, what did you what did you not like about, a lot of the workouts were the same. Like he had no imagination. I'm like, then you're looking for David Copperfield. You're looking for a new coach. Like, it's like, because that's a whole lot of your training. It's just boring. Like it's just zone 1, zone 2. It's just boring stuff. Like if you want to be entertained, like go, pop in the movie Gladiator or something, like, or go look for but that's a disconnect, right? Is that you think we have to be entertained to get better, but most of 85-90% of what you do is not entertaining. But what is entertaining is getting better, right? And showing that you've gotten better. And you see so many people during race season are like, that can't figure out why they keep getting the same result over and over and over again. They're expert trainers. They are the best people in training you've ever seen in your entire life. But when it comes race day, Freddie flop. They just flop. They can't ever put it together, and you wonder what the missing ingredient is. And most of the time, that's what it is. It's just getting the basics right and not trying to crush or kill or be legendary every training session and doing these crazy workouts. It's just about doing a whole lot of boring stuff that eventually ends up to something pretty spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Well, it translates to the race. A lot of people listening have probably done an Ironman, certainly seen one. And step back a minute and tell me what you really see. You see a walkathon. A big part of it is literally, it should be the Ironman walkathon a lot of times. I was shocked the first time I ever did one. I went and watched one, how many people were walking. That was Louisville, the hot days, whatever. But still, to this day, what we're talking about here is this, what translates into being successful on race day, right? And it's not working, incessantly on track stuff, because when you get out there, you're going to be going way slower.
90% of you shouldn't even be on a track. I'm just going to say it. Okay. Yeah. You don't run enough to be on a track.
Yeah. And it always, but I think that's the thing, right? Is you say you're talking about the gray days and the quote unquote boring days, but that's, to me, is like what I was trying to say with that baseball stuff, is like, how do you find the, excitement of it? Because if all you're thinking about is the race, and we kind of touched on that dopamine stuff last time, but if it's that high you're going for, and it's going to be proportionally a low. And if that's kind of how your training goes, and like you're saying, we talk a lot about when we set up new athletes or whatever, and any athletes for that matter at this time. And I'm just like, we talk about how do we, find that consistency, or how do we find something that's enjoyable and pleasurable and something that is attainable, and just go out and show it and prove it for a while before you start talking about moving up the rungs, because it doesn't serve any purpose. It's just about building habits, and it's about putting those kind of ethics and just appreciation, I guess, for the little things.
I love what you just said there, and we'll close it there, because frankly, it's a Friday and we've rallied, and we've
we have rallied,
but we've rallied hard. The recipe is in the repeatable stuff that you do, and you can do over and over and over and over again. It's not the one-offs that get you. And that's like, there's no hidden secret 10 best workouts you can do to ace your next Ironman. That's BS. If you've sold that, then, ask for your money back. The recipe for success is in the repeatable things, the repeatable weeks, the stuff that, like you said, when you set up an athlete for a week, and we tell this to every single athlete, as a coach, when you look at your week, I want you to say, dude, I can totally do all that. In fact, give me some more. Perfect. Because now we've set you up for success. It's something that you can do. You don't want to ever look at a week and think, I hope I can do that. I think I can probably sneak that in, because what happens is you're not. And then you're going to try and stack, 4 workouts on a Saturday and get 2 in, and then we all know that's going to work out. It's about being able to do things over and over and over and over again. It's about repetitive 40-minute runs with nothing else, but you can do them 4, 5, 6 days a week, and you do them for a long period of time. You can do that for 12 weeks. You'll be a much better runner than trying to run 3 times a week, but one of them one of them's going to be this like ripping it mile repeat down my favorite stretch of these two. No, the success that you'll have is in the stuff that you can repeatedly do over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. And it's just a quick one analogy with the college courses. We always talk about it, but the repeatable part of that is going to class, right? And if you, I had many classes where I used to go to every class. I had a lot more probably where I skipped every other day. And yeah, I had a couple good tests on those classes that I'd skip occasionally. I'd cram and I'd nail it and I have but every single time I went every day, that test was a heck of a lot easier. And I was a heck of a lot more prepared for it. I think it's the same kind of thing.
100%.
If you go to class, isn't always exciting. It's just sort of the same thing. Every once in a while, you have a sort of an enlightening class. The lecture was on point or something happens. But most of the time, it's just being there, kind of soaking it in, letting it sink into your body, and then you just learn it easier. And I think that learning how to race Ironman starts with the repeatable workouts.
And it's okay for repeatable things to be boring.
Yeah.
Kind of like the first 20 minutes of our podcast.
Or satisfying. Like sometimes, exactly. Sometimes you just find satisfaction. I mean, think about all the stuff that you feel comfortable doing. It's something that you know how to do.
Do it with your
eyes
closed.
Go ahead and it's like, all right, let's go do that because that seems fun. But now I got to go learn what and do something different. This seems hard. Why do we want that in triathlon? You learn in little chunks. You move up in little chunks.
The best little chunk thing I ever did was in keyboarding. I took it seriously, and now I can type fast.
Oh, I thought you were a pianist.
They're like also a pianist. They're like, you're like A, S, D, F, and you practice, as, all these short 2-letter words, and like all these, do these skills with your eyes closed and trying to type all these stupid, like, like, oh, this is so dumb. Like, can I just, but you know what you're not? You're not the dude hunting and pecking trying to type the 20-page paper at 9 o'clock at night the night before an exam, right? Know. Like it's one of those things where in order to get to where you're fluent and you don't think about it, you have to start with things that you think are dumb, right? Yeah. That are almost like idiotic. Oh, come on, there's got to be nope. And for all you hunting peckers, you regret, right? You regret not paying attention in keyboard because you're still hunting and pecking.
Do they have thumb typing classes now?
They probably do. They probably do.
I mean, because that's what I needed to. Man, I'm lost. I'm a hunting pecker on the phone.
Yeah, well, dude, it's so funny. Like the amount of time, the amount of time you see the ellipses thing with an iPhone is totally related to the age of the person. Like my mom, again, my mom, I love you, but like I can see her ellipses going for like 20 minutes. And I'm thinking, the pre-type thing. Pre-type thing. I'm like, man, like. I'm about to get like a novel. Like some big must be going down.
It says, okay.
And then exactly. And then I get it back and it's like, really hope we can see you next week, period. Or you'll see it and you're like, man, I'm going to get like, something like really, really, really big back. That's taking a while. And it's like one emoji that she searched for like 2.5 hours. You're like, this will be the one. This will be the one. And then looks up, what does this mean? What does this mean? We put that in there. That's basically, how it is these days. But that's it. It's a Friday. We started off slow. We really slow. But we appreciate you hanging in with us. We got it done. It's 55 minutes in. It's a Friday. We got it finished twice a week. Always have. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. You can also click on our club tab and check out that. If you have any questions, you know where to find him. He's at crushingiron at gmail.com. That's for Mike. If you need any questions for me, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
All right. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. See you later.